SummerSlam, of course, is in the rearview mirror, but, you know, Tomas, it's usually around this time of year, August, where we're so psyched about the show, so we got the SummerSlam fever. Summer fever is strong, and you guys voted in one of the more famous SummerSlams in history for us to talk about. SummerSlam 1998, emanating from Madison Square Garden, my friend.
Also known as the Highway to Hell, and as Zack, SummerSlam may be over, but with the exception of AEW Quake on the Lake, which we will be reviewing, there is no wrestling going on in the month of August. It is very weird. I think it's a very good opportunity for WWE. We got a brand new head of creative in Triple H, and he is already making big splashes in the company. This is a good chance for them to
don't say
and just have August be, the month of hard resets. AEW is building up to All Out, so I feel like this is just a month of building up. But while we're waiting around for that shit to build up, we got shit to watch. Like I said, Highway to Hell, SummerSlam 98. The Madison Square Garden is famous for a lot of reasons, and it always has that iconic feel and that iconic look to it. You have, very reminiscent of Royal Rumble 99, which would also be in this building, or Rumble 2000. Rumble 2000, which would also be in this building. That iconic tunnel, everything screams iconic about this set. And even though it may look the same, every time I see MSG, I like that look. I know WWE will never go back to the small tunnel, but it's a big arena, and they try to pack as many people as possible. Even for WrestleMania 20, which we'll be talking about later, they do not do the small tunnel, but you can clearly see that area being used very well, which would be the match marquee for a lot of the matches. So
it sure would. I love this little entryway here. And I think it's even more like the Royal Rumble 2000 set with the taxi hanging from the rafters is really freaking dope. But honestly, I think this set is better. It's a lot more simple. It really fits in with the theme. You have the Hell's Gates at the forefront, and the wrestlers push open the gates. And the gates of hell blow open for some of these characters, as we'll start talking about.
Yeah, because, from like 2000 or like every single SummerSlam until like just about recently, I always associated SummerSlam with the light green, the light blue. It's SummerSlam, you got the beach aesthetic, you got those nice tropical colors. That would kind of go away when SummerSlam like 2009 became like a carnival theme, and then it became like a more of an LA feel, and then the Nashville theme this past year was actually, I liked it. It was very rock and roll.
Cool.
It had like the pinball aesthetic. But other than those, this was like the only time SummerSlam took a very drastic change in aesthetic. It was very apocalypse themed. You had the gates of hell that Zack just alluded to. And on the iconic poster, it's like King Kong versus Godzilla. You got Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Undertaker literally on a crash course to hell.
Yes.
I think it's Taker on the poster that has a fucking building over his head. He's got the Empire State Building over his head. Yeah, he's
using the Empire State Building as a weapon, and Stone Cold has like a subway car or something like that, and you have the Statue of Liberty sinking into the Hudson River there.
And this show,
it's a great feel.
Like the very embodiment. WWE was on the highest peak of the Attitude Era at this point. They're on the peak of their popularity, and as we'll go on later in the show, which all of these elements of pop culture come together, there were three things in 1998 that were popular, and nothing.
I knew you were going to make this joke.
Was Insane Clown Posse, South Park, and the World Wrestling Federation. We will be talking about that very soon.
Yeah, South Park. I mean, I watched South Park. It's nostalgic for me. So, like,
absolutely. And
it's funny.
These things were very, very, very new. And one big issue I do have with the Attitude Era, I was 4 years old when this show happened, so I had no idea what was going on with professional wrestling. I feel like people didn't watch WWF for the professional wrestling. They were there because it was a pop culture phenomenon. It's like, long were gone were the days of Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior. This was all about the shock value TV, the Jerry Springer like feel that was brought to WWF, and they had to do this or they would go out of business. Now it's all about the swearing and the nudity and the how far they could push it on television and the chair shots and the violence, and the WWF was an entirely different product back in 1998. And this
the Rock dropping F-bombs during his matches, like, geez, it's a
Generation X with the suckets and the
wholly different environment. And if anybody's ready to, sorry to cut you off, if anybody's ready to feel old, Tomas mentioned him being a little toddler. I was barely over a year old when this show was going on, which is freaking insane to me. But I did have this show on VHS. I know this show fairly well. I've seen it a few times before recording this. And it was a great time looking back on it with you, Tomas, too.
Yeah.
I mean,
we have
this is, like you said, peak of the Attitude Era here. This Madison Square Garden Arena was jam-packed, sold out the gills, and everybody was all fired up to be there. Highway to Hell does play live over the PA system, but this is a recurring theme because Peacock does not want to pay these famous bands royalties, ranging from AC/DC to ICP. They're gonna be blurred over. Highway to Hell did not play at the start of our stream, which is kind of disheartening as a big AC/DC fan, but that's okay.
And, we go back to it was a pop culture phenomenon. You look at this card, you look at the undercard. This card would not fly today in WWE standards. This is not a professional wrestling card.
No.
You're here for the characters. You're here for the violence. You're here for the absolute insanity in the storylines and all that. If anything, professional wrestling is the last thing on the WWF's mind when it comes to these shows, with the exception of 2 matches, with the exception of 2.5 matches, I'm going to say. This is not about the in-ring work. This is all about, the sheer insanity was the Attitude Era. And this opener is going to prove my point. It's D'Lo Brown representing the Nation of Domination, defending his WWF European Championship against Val Venis. And I feel like this is one of the first times we've talked about Val Venis on this channel. I'm going to upright and say I do not like Val Venis. I think he was a product of his time.
You're not the only one.
A wrestler. I've heard he's a piece of shit in real life. He had his shelf life run here in the WWF, and he really didn't do anything that was impressive to me. He was a gimmick and a product of his time. And what is that gimmick? He's a porn star.
Of course, yeah. Porn star who now has cryptocurrency advice and conspiracy theories, It's
exactly.
It's a match made in heaven. So you're not
women should be main eventing professional wrestling shows.
Yeah. You're not the only one who is not a fan of Val Venis over here. I'm sure there's a lot of people that dislike the man as well. He comes out and the ladies are fawning over him, and he says he came, he saw, and he came again, and you can put 2 and 2 together. You can do the math on what that means. And looking at this as a little kid, looking at it as a little kid, I had no idea what he was talking about. Yeah, went right over my head.
The whole gimmick when I was a little kid, I knew he was a ladies' man, but the towel, the music, the innuendos, hell, on his fucking Titantron, there's just a random clip of somebody grilling hot dogs, and I didn't fucking understand that. And now I get it.
The Big Valboskis.
Years go on, the gimmick is gross, in my opinion. I'm not a fan of this gimmick. Again, it's a gimmick of its time. Venis was over for his time, but again, that expired real quick. D'Lo Brown is the current World Wrestling Federation European Champion.
He sure is.
My favorite thing about D'Lo Brown is the iconic head shake. He is just on his way. He is just flipping his head all around. One thing
I know you could wait to talk about that.
His theme song in 2002 was such a fucking bop. And, he does not come out to the tonight. He is, full nation mode. The Nation of Domination, compiling of himself, Mark Henry, The Rock, no longer Ron Simmons. Ron Simmons was excommunicated.
The Rock at this point had usurped Farouk's leadership, if you will, from the Nation. And The Rock is under full control, and The Rock is very, very popular on this show. All the Nation members come out to a variation of The Rock's bam, bam, little bop of a theme song that would evolve over time.
Was Colonel Mustafa still in the group at this point?
I don't believe he was. I believe no, because he had become the Godfather around this point. He was in the Brawl for All tournament, so
both Simmons and Mustafa were excommunicated around the same time. And honorary member Owen Hart, which we will be talking about a lot later. That is a trope that I can't wait to talk about because I love it.
Yeah, it's interesting that Owen Hart was a member of the Nation, but D'Lo as the champion here has a very fun gimmick of moving around between countries. Tony Chimmel announces him as originally from Chicago, Illinois, now residing in Helsinki, Finland. And JR makes the joke that, he moved apartments again? Last Monday, he was from Lisbon, Portugal. And I'm like, shit. Yeah. I mean, call him out on his bullshit,
D'Lo Brown's other gimmick is he recently had, I don't know if he had surgery or he had injured ribs. So he was wearing a chest protector, and it was approved by WWF Commission. He was allowed to use that. So the ongoing theme of this match is D'Lo Brown using the chest protector to his advantage. And I love this gimmick a lot. Val Venis goes for a shot to the ribs, and D'Lo Brown immediately laughs it off. It's like, haha, you can't harm me. I'm wearing the chest protector. Throughout the match, Brown is using like a weird variation of a clothesline, but he is like slamming the chest protector into Venis every chance he gets. And I love the psychology.
It's more like whatchamacallit, he's not even doing a clothesline. He's not even sticking his arm out for a lariat. He's just hitting him straight up with his chest. Using his attire as a weapon, if you will, which has been reinforced. Drink every time JR says the word reinforced chest plate in this match, and you will be dead. But this was, this opener, this crowd was into it. And I was enjoying the wrestling for the most part. There was a really, really nice counter out of a money shot, and D'Lo counters it into a spine buster in midair. There's some really, really good false finishes towards the end here.
Yeah, one spot I really wish they would have went with. I wish Venis would have hit the money shot, but then the reinforced chest plate should have came into fruition there, because you're going, bam, you're slamming into that chest protector. That should hurt Venis a hell of a lot more than it would hurt Brown. These guys got 15 minutes.
They did. It was a long match. It was a really long match, and I think they
were enjoying.
Worked well together, wouldn't you say? Yeah,
surprisingly.
Yeah.
For how much I just dunked on Val Venis right now, he actually wrestled a good match.
He does. When he wants to, Val Venis can wrestle a really good match, and I think D'Lo was a really good opponent for him. I think he was selling the injuries really well, and I think D'Lo was selling the gimmick of the chest protector really well. There was a point where Val Venis has had enough, and he pulls the chest protector off of D'Lo, and Jerry Lawler is just flabbergasted by this. He's like, oh no, D'Lo's fully exposed now. He can get hurt any minute. And I'm like, was he healed? Was he healed though? Like, if he was really that hurt, he would not be cleared to compete with like a busted chest, busted sternum like that.
If he was really hurt that much, he wouldn't even be wrestling tonight. A fantastic heel trope, by the way. I love when they're injured and then they have something that gives them the advantage because of their injury, and it's just like they're using it to their full advantage. This is where the match goes from decently good to straight up fucking stupid.
It was so dumb. It was so dumb because like Val Venis puts the chest protector on for payback, and this poor referee who had to sell basically that this chest protector was part of D'Lo's attire and it's fair game. Keyword, fair game. Val Venis puts it on, and this is where it draws the line. He's like, no,
so
you cannot put this on.
It's fine for D'Lo Brown, but the minute Venis goes on there, this ref is hell-bent on getting it on Venis. Venis goes to the top rope, and the referee is grabbing Venus's foot, which I'm just like, you can't do that.
The ref got involved.
Disagree. Even if a wrestler has a belt or a steel chair, they can advise all they want, and referees do get involved by taking the weapon away. This referee is full-on grabbing onto Venus's foot, and he crotches Venis on the top rope.
He sure does. But at this point where D'Lo hits the nice little lowdown without the chest protector, might I add. There's some nice false finishes here. Val Venis goes for the money shot with the chest protector, and I believe that's where referee Jimmy Corderas got involved. But then Val Venis, he's had enough of the referee kind of getting up in his business, so he shoves the ref down. Then he's going up to the top rope for the money shot again, and out of nowhere the bell just rings. And Val Venis is disqualified for pushing the ref down in the opening match.
There are so many levels of hypocrisy in this finish. Again, if the chest protector is fair game, I wouldn't have minded this finish if, the referee would have crotched Venis on the top rope, Brown would have hit the lowdown, and then Brown would have retained the title, and then they would have revealed that this referee was in the back pocket of the nation. That would have made sense. But this referee is full on just hypocritically double standarding, the use of the chest protector, number one. He puts his hands on Venis, number two, which is wrong. And I feel like if Venis wants to shove the referee back, that's fair game. Because even JR says on commentary, you cannot put your hands on a participant. And if it was the other way around, take Earl Hebner and Triple H, for instance. Triple H has shoved Earl Hebner, and Hebner has shoved him back, evening up the odds. In my opinion, Venis was just evening up the odds, and the referee disqualifies Venis. And that is just, this finish to me just fell apart. This went from being a decently good match to being somewhat stupid at the end. I gotta knock it a half star. Like I can only give this 2.5 stars. This would have been a solid 3 if it weren't for that stupid finish.
Yeah, I'm going 2.25. I thought it was a averagely wrestled match. D'Lo and Val Venis were solid mid-card workers, but I mean, it wasn't. I don't think it was going to be higher than a 3-star match, in all honesty. But the whole nonsense involving the official really did knock it down, and the fact that this is the opening contest with a DQ shitty finish really does not help matters either. But Val Venis does get his revenge after the bell and hits the money shot on the referee with no chest protector, mind you. I think the chest protector's gone by this point. D'Lo took it to the back. Val Venis hits Jimmy Corderas with the money shot, and then they hit his music. Gyrates over the official, too, just for good measure.
Again, a screwy finish with Brown retaining the title would have been fine. Val Venis straight up winning the title here would have been fine, but they just went in such a shitty direction with this match.
Oh, yeah. Really, really shitty direction, which, speaking of, man.
Speaking of
holy shit. What do we got next? We have a special attraction handicap match. It's Kaientai, made up of Funaki, Taka Michinoku, Dick to Go, and I'm forgetting the fourth guy off the top of my head. But they're going up against... Thank you. They're going up against the Oddities. Who are the Oddities, you might ask? It's a stable of just freaking dancing losers. It's Golga, it's the former interrogator Kurgan, and it's El Gigante, Giant Silva. They were accompanied to the ring by the Insane Clown Posse, as Tomas mentioned earlier. And their entire entrance cut from the Peacock broadcast. So you don't... Like, Tomas was saying earlier, like, ICP was so over. And I feel like, yeah, I agree with you. The Oddities would not be the act that they are without ICP. So to me, just watching it in 2022, they're just a bunch of big, gigantic dudes wearing some really weird attire. Kurgan's wearing like I don't even know how to describe this. It looked like Kurgan was going to be in a Spike Lee movie, for all I know.
Golda was famous for wearing an Eric Cartman shirt.
He sure was.
Eric Cartman plushie. Again, just factoring into that South Park is really popular around the time, and they just had to, hey, look, we're cool. The cool kids watch South Park, so if we go out there with a South Park gimmick, they'll like us. I don't know. I thought it was weird.
Yeah, so Golga, I should also note, is John Tenta, the former Earthquake, under a mask, wearing an Eric Cartman t-shirt. It's interesting.
As fucking stupid as this gimmick is, props to Tenta for still being employed by WWE at this time and having a fairly decent role in the company. You know, he got to be involved with the Attitude Era. A lot better than being in WCW and still being under the name Typhoon. So props to him.
Yeah. No, was Typhoon the other? I think Typhoon was the other natural disaster that you're thinking of. I think.
Wait, who was he in WCW then? I know
he was
Earthquake.
He was Avalanche. He was Avalanche, and then he was Shark with the Dungeon of Doom.
Okay, he was Avalanche. Yes, thank you.
I was gonna say, mad props to John Tenta because he really jumped the shark and found himself better employment.
So this is the modern day equivalent. Imagine if the Great Khali, Vladimir Kozlov, and who's another really shitty worker that was just
Brodus Clay.
Brodus Clay. Yeah, I mean, he's not the worst wrestler in the world, but imagine if you just got 3 big bumbling idiots that cannot work in the ring. I know Tenta is a good worker, but at the same time, he's past like his glory days. He's also wrestling under a mask now, so it's just it's 3 big fucking bumbling idiots in the ring.
Yeah, throwing around a bunch of throwing around a bunch of poor Japanese wrestlers, and fucking Kurgan. Horrible. Fucking Kurgan was racist in this match. He's wrestling Funaki, and then there's a point where Kurgan gets down on his knees, bows to Funaki, and I'm like, you piece of shit, Kurgan. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, and it's like, and then the commentator, JR and King are fucking roasting them too. They look at Kurgan and go like, well, who do you think dressed Kurgan this morning? And Lawler says, I think he dressed in the dark. And it's just like, the more you this match, it's the worse it gets. It's like nothing happened in this match. You know, it's nothing. The equivalent of, again, fuck the other analogy I made. Imagine 3 Great Khalis trying to wrestle 3, I don't know, Matt Seidels.
especially El Gigante, who JR likened to the late great WWF Hall of Famer Andre the Giant on this show in terms of look. Goodness gracious. I mean, just because he's a big dude Also, just immediately you liken him to Andre the Giant. It's like Andre the Giant was an icon. Who remembers the Oddities? You know,
they were a fucking gimmick.
By the way, the late great Luna Vachon was in the corner of the Oddities. Who forgot that Luna Vachon was an oddity? Raise your hand. I sure did.
I forgot she was babyface, but you know, I will give her credit. I went back and watched some old clips. She didn't look like she was having fun.
I mean, yeah, but like Luna Vachon is like, she's a wrestler. She's a wrestler. Yeah. She's not a gimmick. You know?
Also, and again, this is a late 90s WWF, which if you're a woman in the Fed, you're either cast off to the side or you're made into a sex object. So, you know, at least this isn't, well, oh wait, this is before or after Luna was forced to be in the bikini contest. This is before, wasn't it?
I think it was before. I want to say it was
before. She's gonna get objectified before her way out.
Yeah.
So notice how we're just dunking on everybody in the match because there's nothing that happens in this match. Like I said, it's four little guys trying to mount offense and then three big guys giving the worst offense you have ever seen in your life.
Good Lord. It was so terrible. I will say, though, props to Kaientai for taking these bumps like champs. They really tried their best to sell like the Oddities as legitimate threats, but with the gimmick that they had, you couldn't really buy into them. I mean, the crowd liked their theme music because it was ICP. You know, they would come out and they would like wave their arms like this and everybody would do that. And I'm like, they're just fun-loving doofuses.
Yeah, at least they found a way to get ICP involved with WWF without like shoehorning them in the main event scene, getting them involved in serious storylines like WCW did. Like, oh my God. And then
yeah. This psychology is so ass backwards in this match, too, because the big dudes are baby faces, of course, which means that in a big tag team match like this, you've got to have your hot tag, right? So why the fuck is Golga taking heat from these little guys? It's so bizarre. Like, and when Golga gets the hot tag to Kurgan, this crowd makes zero noise. This crowd does not give a shit. Like,
you got four really good workers in here, and they're just made to look like shit. And then I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I don't even remember what fucking happens at the end of the match.
What happened was Giant Silva and Kurgan chokeslam all four dweebs, and then Golga hits his former Earthquake finisher and pins all four of them.
Yeah. This gets a negative star. This is fucking awful.
This gets negative 2 stars. I fucking hated this. Yeah, I'm gonna up that ante.
I'm gonna match you.
I'll raise it.
2 stars. This was fucking horrible. Not the worst match I've seen in my life, but it's up there.
I'd rather rewatch this over Triple H versus Scott Steiner any day of the week.
Yeah, and then like you said, no ICP music. So the minute, and I mean the very second this match is over, blackout, and then cut right to the next match.
Which, you know what? So weird.
If this was in real life, I would want to cut the minute the fucking bell rung too, because this was fucking horrible.
The crowd probably would chant "boo," and then they cut away.
Yeah.
Sorry for blowing out everybody's eardrums.
Anywho, back to something a little more enjoyable. We got to Sunday Night Heat, which they are building up to the big hair versus hair match. It's Jarrett versus X-Pac, but Jarrett decides to bully poor Howard Finkel. If you notice, Howard Finkel is not announcing the show.
It's Tony Chimmel.
Because Finkel did get attacked by Jarrett during Sunday Night Heat, and Jarrett shaved Fink's head. Yep, This is the beginning of Fink's iconic bald look, and that is all thanks to JEFFJARRETT. I cannot get away from Jeff Jarrett. This is the 4th time I've watched him this week between last week's SummerSlam, Ric Flair's last match, and now with this match right here. Hell, you know what? Let's get some Jeff Jarrett appreciation. He's doing some good work right now.
Oh, no, and Jeff Jarrett honestly was an unsung hero on this show because he honestly wrestled a great match against X-Pac. This, to me, is honestly one of the better technical matches on the night without any sort of, like... I mean, yeah, hair versus hair is a stipulation and a gimmick, but, like, as a straight-up wrestling match without any weapons involved, this was certainly up there with the better ones on the card.
Oh, yeah, I feel like Pac and Jarrett gelled really well in this match. Also, it's a big, nice little surprise. That's a great way to word that, big, little, nice surprise. A nice little surprise as Pac comes out to the ring, and he brings Fink out with him.
Yep.
And he tells Jarrett if they're not down with that, they got 2 words for them. Fink grabs the mic and says, "Suck it," which I fucking loved.
So great. Fink is wearing a DX shirt with a pink bow tie on top of it. It's a look. It's certainly a look. I should also know that Jeff Jarrett is accompanied to the ring by his heaters, Southern Justice, Dennis Knight, and whatever the other one was named. But these are the former Godwins, Phineas and Henry. Oh, thank you. Yeah, whoever was Henry Godwin, that one. I know Dennis Knight. I know Dennis Knight, but
I was really scared about is that when Jeff Jarrett was making his way to the ring, he was only billed as Double J. And I'm just like, oh, please don't tell me they're just calling him Double J at this point. No, I think that was just the graphics team being lazy and for some reason not putting Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
Was Jeff Jarrett just coming back in from one of his WCW stunts?
No, he had been in the WWF for a while at this point. He was there from like 94 all the way up through 99 when he would lose the IC title to China. So he was in WWF for quite some time throughout the 90s.
Okay.
And his gimmick here is he's the good old country singer boy. He comes out with his guitar, which now says "Don't Piss Me Off" on the back, which would become an iconic shirt for him. Then him and X-Pac go in there.
Yeah. We're quite not there to slap nuts yet, but
no. Not yet. But him and X-Pac were a really good match with each other. I think they had excellent chemistry. I mean, they're both technically two of the better workers on this roster in terms of just straight up wrestling. X-Pac goes for a Bronco Buster and Jeff Jarrett kicks him right in the nuts, which is a reversal that I never saw enough of. Like, it's so obvious. That's how you get out of a Bronco Buster.
Exactly. You got a guy running at you full force, about to just smash his crotch into your face. What else are you going to do?
What else are you going to do? You just got to kick it back, But Jarrett, I don't think Jarrett ever hit a stroke in this. Jarrett had a figure 4 on X-Pac for quite some time. Mike Chioda got some nice near falls in here. The ring is making some very loud impact noises with every slam, every ref count as well. I noticed that the ring was louder than it usually would be.
It was, yeah.
So, it's not a problem. It's just some little nitpick I was noticing there. X-Pac hits the X Factor. Southern Justice goes to run interference. The Southern Justice is ejected. I believe they were ejected like at the very beginning, but then they ran back out. And X-Pac fights them both off. Howard Finkel gets on the apron and gets involved, and Jarrett fucking decks him right in the face. Poor Howard Finkel falls onto the apron to the floor, and Jerry Lawler just cannot help but laugh his ass off at this. And I'm like, what a jerk. I know you like Jeff Jarrett, but like, laugh at Howard Finkel's expense and his schadenfreude, if you will. Like, my goodness. My goodness, what a dick. But yeah, X-Pac hit the X Factor. Southern Justice gets involved. X-Pac nails Jeff Jarrett with the guitar while the ref's back is turned. And he pins Jeff Jarrett clean in the middle. That's it. Jeff Jarrett gets his comeuppance.
Yeah, this is definitely one of your more feel-good moments of the show because the big heel just lost. Jarrett does try to make a run for it, but here are the brigade of baby faces because, they've been bullied by Jeff Jarrett this entire time, and they want to see Jarrett get his head shaved. So just a big brigade of baby faces that stop him. They force him back into the ring. And this is the only awkward part about hair versus hair matches. They strap Jarrett down. They start to cut his hair, but Jarrett has a lot of hair.
He sure does.
Buzzing away. I think the clippers die at one point.
Oh, so yeah.
X-Pac switch over to the clipper. I mean, to the scissors, and he just starts little by little. At that point, that's where you just got to knock Jarrett down and say, get this fucker to the back. We're going to finish this shit in the back.
Or put him in a sleeper hold like Edge did to Kurt Angle a little while later.
But even then, people don't realize shaving someone's head bald takes a very long time. And I know you need to watch it because you need to watch the humiliation of the heel. And I think the only time they got it right was, ironically, when Mr. McMahon got his head shaved. They were able to shave his pretty clean right there. But it's just like, you do what you can, and then you take him into the back and finish the job. But
the Clippers did not work for X-Pac. He was like, there was a point where he was like, shaving Jarrett's head, and then you could just audibly hear in the background as the Headbangers and Darren Drozdov are holding Jarrett back in the chair. You could just hear X-Pac say, "Shit, the Clippers died. Give me some scissors." And then,
JR and King are doing their best to try to commentate over this. But after this match, this is when Jarrett would start rocking his iconic short, spiky hair look that he would take into WCW. And
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to Jarrett recently on Broken Skull Sessions, and he said that he pitched the idea of shaving his head because he wanted to cut his hair anyway. So
Yeah.
what better way to do it than letting the baby faces get some heat on him?
Honestly, I don't blame him one bit because he had been rocking that long hair in the Fed for a while. And there was a point where I was a little kid where I was rocking shoulder length blonde hair. And it's hard to upkeep, man. And I'm sure Jeff Jarrett probably felt the same way. There was a point, there came a time and place where it just probably became too much of a job and too much of a hassle to keep up with that. So
when you're the dirty heel that Jarrett is, he's still rocking that weird singlet to the ring. So it was time to start transitioning from the long hair and that singlet to the short spiky hair and just the straight up wrestling trunks and the sunglasses that he was iconic for. He went from being, the Southern country singer to just that redneck asshole that we all grew to love and hate.
Yeah, and Deborah McMichael. So there you go. Jarrett escapes with Southern Justice, and then he presumably finishes the haircut himself because it looks stupid. The headbangers probably go to the back and put some of Jeff Jarrett's old locks on their bald domes, but it was fun. 3.5 stars for this. This is one of the stronger matches for me. One of the more fun matches on this show. This next match wasn't really looking much forward to it, especially after the Sable and Marc Mero mixed tag team match at WrestleMania was kind of hit and miss.
One thing I wanted to point out, and WWE is even known for doing this to the day. Have you noticed sometimes SummerSlam just becomes WrestleMania sloppy seconds?
Yeah, but this time Marc Mero and Sable are on opposite teams. And Marc Mero is teaming with Jacqueline Moore this time around, who is his new flame. I would say in terms of like in-ring skill, Marc Mero certainly upgraded with Jacqueline there. Jacqueline is so incredibly underrated. She is so good as a worker. Obviously
comes out rocking Marc Mero's ring gear, which I thought was a nice little touch.
It looks like a tag team.
Yep. And who are they facing?
They're facing Sable and a mystery partner to be announced. So Sable makes her entrance, and because she's not that good of a talker, she keeps her promo short and sweet this time, and she says, "And now let me introduce you to my tag team partner." And over the PA, all you hear is, "You think you know me? You think you know me? You think you know?" And out of the crowd, who was hanging out in the crowd during the opener, is The Edge, Adam Copeland. He makes his big pay-per-view debut here on SummerSlam. Pretty monumental, considering that Edge is still wrestling these days.
Also, the undefeated Edge. Edge had made his debut in the company just a few months ago, had a horrendous first match, which I still feel bad for him to this day. If you ever want to look that up, Edge talks about it in great length. But Edge was able to recover from that. He had this nice little kind of loner gimmick going on. This is pre-Brood Edge. He's still trying to find his footing in the company. And he comes out through the crowd, and he ends up being Sable's tag team partner for this match. This match, it was
passable.
It
existed on the card. Edge's gimmick was basically being that guy at the subway station who was looking for loose change. And he was just hanging out, like just in random locations, except like he's obviously, Edge is Edge, and he looks the way he does. And he's got that rock star hair.
This is pre-Brood Edge. This was experimental Edge. They still didn't know what his niche was yet. This is, before he would have his
I didn't know what his niche was at this point.
Yeah, before Edge and Christian, before the Brood, before the Rated R Superstar, before the Ultimate Opportunist. This is just plain old Edge getting his start off in the company. He didn't do a bad job. Just
no.
Again, this felt like WrestleMania sloppy seconds. Marc Mero and Sable are still bickering, except for they're not trying to make amends. They're straight up just fighting each other now. And at this point,
I gotta give Marc Mero credit, though. Gotta give him credit, because like when he and Edge were in the ring together, even though like you still have that soap opera angle with him and Sable, Marc Mero was experienced enough to make Edge look really, really good. A young Edge.
So here's, I feel like, was Mero's downfall. Mero was a very underrated worker. He was a very good wrestler as Johnny B. Bad. But here's the thing. He was either in WCW as a really good wrestler, but with the really silly gimmick in the time where WCW was all about the really silly gimmicks, or he was in WWF at a time where in-ring work didn't matter, and he needed to have some sort of gimmick as well just to get over with the crowd. And here he is as the knockoff Rocky. He's the boxing, he's the Golden Gloves, bear fighter. It's like, if you put Marc Mero in today's environment and just let him be Marc Mero with no gimmick, I think he would have got over just fine. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, he was wrestling at a time where you weren't going to get over if you didn't have a gimmick. And unfortunately, both gimmicks didn't really lend well to how good his wrestling ability was. Because you've got to admit, the character of Marvelous Marc Mero had a shelf life. And it was here to be the abusive boyfriend of Sable. At this point, I don't understand why did they just do Sable and Mero.
Right. And Sable was part of the reason that Mero was so over in early 1998. It sucks. It sucks saying that because it's like
I may have just answered my own question. I don't think WWE could ever trust Sable to be in a one-on-one situation with Mero. They needed to have people to cover up her weaknesses. And even though I am a Sable defender at this time, not in her 03 run, that's a totally different story. I was a Sable defender of this run. You know, you got to admit, she was not a Trish Stratus. She was not a Charlotte Flair. She was
not even close. Not even close.
Decent. She was decent for what she could do, but she was there for eye candy. And even then, she wasn't even dressed overly sexually when she wrestled. She was actually dressed quite nicely in a way that I could appreciate.
Yeah, she often put her hair up and square up, if you will. And the gimmick was that Jacqueline wanted nothing to do with Sable, and she was just terrified of her. Every time Jacqueline would make a tag, there were times where Jackie would square up to Edge, and she would be like, "Come get some." And I thought Edge and Jackie were gonna wrestle. Like,
which makes you wonder. It's the ass backwards psychology we also talk about WrestleMania. Why the fuck would Luna Vachon be scared of Sable? Why the fuck should Jacqueline be afraid of Sable and not be afraid of Edge?
Exactly.
Really
exactly.
That's like if, I don't know, what's a good example? That's like if Marco Stunt was wrestling Wardlow and Wardlow was scared of him.
See, now I can't take that visual out of my head. It's just so stupid. But eventually Jacqueline does take a TKO from Sable. The TKO, of course, being Marc Mero's finisher. Edge hits Marc Mero with what was known as the downward spiral. That would be Edge's finisher before the execution and the spear and all that stuff. Sable rolls through. Edge picks up Sable and hits a nice looking double team Frankensteiner style move. And Sable pins Marc Mero, definitively putting an end to that story. Again, why on earth Sable and Marc Mero couldn't just do that one-on-one? Beyond me. But Edge and Sable win.
My thing is that Vince was very aware how green Sable was in the ring, and they tried everything they could. They needed people around her to protect her. And like I said, Mero's a good worker. Edge could pull his weight for, his time. And then Jacqueline was there, which, again, I feel like Jacqueline was just another victim of the Sable push. Someone that, again, this shouldn't even be happening.
Yeah.
It shouldn't even be like this. This is like, if they booked Ronda Rousey and Liv Morgan in this sort of way, where the dominant person, don't.
It's where Ronda Rousey is scared of Liv Morgan.
Yeah, it's very, very, very ass backwards.
Yeah, except Liv Morgan is a much better worker than Sable, guys. Don't take that the wrong way. And you guys should be ashamed of yourself for booing Liv Morgan, by the way, if you were there. But
more on that later.
Yeah, in any case, it was a 2-star match. It was fine. It didn't really feel like it's easily one of the weaker matches on the show, but it wasn't as offensive as the handicap match earlier. But the weird thing is, Edge and Sable team up here, and to my knowledge, if I remember correctly, they never interacted again with each other on screen. Never teamed up.
I believe it. I believe it.
And Edge also, after the bell, Edge acknowledges Sable. Sable says thanks, and then Edge just leaves right through the crowd again. It's interesting. It's very interesting.
Edge did his business, and now he's back off. He was like, paid gunslinger. Now he's riding off into the sunset.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. Sable would, of course, go on to win the women's title at the Deadly Game at Survivor Series, which we reviewed on here. Edge would go on and have a couple of really rare good matches, one of which at the next pay-per-view with the late Owen Hart as well. If you guys haven't seen the matchup breakdown between him and Owen Hart, it's a hidden gem. I really enjoy that one.
So do we get the backstage promo next, or do we get the next match?
I think, are you talking about Mankind?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No, we should talk about that first, shouldn't we? I think this is where the Mankind promo was. Go ahead. Take it away.
Mankind's tag team partner at the time is Kane. They are the current WWF Tag Team Champions, but Kane is wrapped up in his brother, The Undertaker storyline, which, again, this is Attitude Era booking at his finest. Why are you going to slap the tag team titles on a random team like Mankind and Kane when Kane is too busy with main event stuff? Again, that's just shock value TV. They had to swap the titles every week just to get that pop. And I fucking hated it. They did it with the European title. They did it with the tag team titles. They did it with the Intercontinental title.
Hot potato that shit.
They did it with the WWF title, just to pop the rating, just the pops coming from the crowd. So
thank you, Vince Russo.
Yeah, Kane has not been spotted in the building at all tonight, and Mankind is getting really worried because they have a tag team Falls Count Anywhere match with the New Age Outlaws coming up, and he is just absolutely terrified at this point. He's kind of the cowering. He's a coward at this point. He's kind of just hiding under Mr. McMahon's coat every chance he gets. And he's telling Mr. McMahon, I don't have a partner. What am I going to do when I do? And Vince McMahon is telling him, like, oh, no, it's okay. Just go out there. You're going to do fine. You're going to beat the Outlaws all by yourself. And Mankind's like, I don't have a weapon. I don't have a weapon. And Vince goes, yeah, sure you do. You've got a weapon. And he grabs a candelabra, puts it on a silver platter, gives it to Mankind, and tells him, I just served you up a weapon on a silver platter. Mankind looks at the candlestick, throws it down, and said, I'll just use the platter. Why are you giving me a fucking
What the fuck is he going to do with a candelabra? Like,
Exactly.
That's what I'm wondering. Is he going to sing them a musical number and serve them dinner?
Exactly.
What are you going to do with that? You know? Come on, Vince.
Yeah, is Lumiere going to be Mankind's partner?
Maybe. I mean, Mankind has an affinity for fire partners. So
Mankind is fired up at this point. See what I did there?
Oh,
and,
damn you. Get out of here.
He's ready to take on the New Age Outlaws, and he says, and if you're not down with that, I've got 13 words for you. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Michael Cole was the interviewer Michael Cole was so stumped by this. There was also a point in the interview where Mankind considered, like, dragging Michael Cole's, like, gangly carcass out to the ring to be his tag partner. He gave Michael Cole his tag belt, and he's like, why don't you be my partner, Michael, and we can go and do this? And Vince McMahon is a piece of shit, and I don't like acknowledging him, but give him credit.
Asshole.
Yeah.
This segment.
Yeah, but give him credit for acknowledging that Mick Foley hitchhiked to Madison Square Garden in 1983 to watch his hero at the time jump off a steel cage. And he's like, you're going to go down in the Madison Square Garden Hall of Fame if you pull this off. And, yeah, you know,
Which, again, as you know, coming after Survivor Series where Vince McMahon and the corporation do end up turning on Mankind, again, this was just Vince feeding Mankind to he was the lamb. He was leading the lamb to slaughter every single opportunity he got.
He was manipulating him.
Exactly. Just, purposely putting Kane in a position where he couldn't help Mankind out. And again, technically in this feud, Mankind and Kane are the heels, even though it may not look like it. The New Age Outlaws are so fucking over at this point. You can't not make them baby faces. But more on that later, because we have something really, really, really cool up next.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of the only 2 times in history this has ever happened. It's Owen Hart taking on Ken Shamrock in the Lion's Den match. And I really like the build to this match too. Shamrock and Owens are kind of on a collision course at this point. Owen Hart is a member of the Nation of Domination. And this is one of those tropes that I really love. When you have that oddball member of a group, the modern day equivalent would be Sami Zayn as a part of the bloodline right now. As you know, the Nation of Domination is a black group. It's comprised of, again, former Ron Simmons, Colonel Mustafa, The Rock, Mark Henry, D'Lo Brown. It's a black group. And just to have Owen Hart in there, I fucking love that. He's like this unofficial stooge of the Nation of Domination.
Except Owen Hart wasn't as obnoxious as Sami Zayn would be right now. Owen was definitely the more serious, like, Black Heart, soul-surviving Hart family member in the WWF at the time. He was still the more intense, one of the more intense members of the Nation at this time around. He and Ken Shamrock are on a collision course on this feud, and Shamrock challenges Owens to this Lion's Den match, which is this MMA-style match that we'll talk about later. And Owen says that, okay, he's going to have someone very special training him, getting ready for this match, and this reveals to be the Beast Dan Severn making his WWF debut in such a cool fucking way. I really like this alliance, and I really like this team up because Shamrock was over like Rover. They were booking him very high. He was very protected. He was the most dangerous man on the planet. We've talked about this before. What he did to The Rock at WrestleMania. He's King of the Ring winner too.
Titles. He's winning the King of the Ring. This guy is unstoppable. So to make this alliance of Owen and the Beast Dan Severn, to just keep Shamrock down at every chance they got, which was a really cool. It's perfect. It's perfect for Owen Hart. It's perfect for the storyline. And now There's going to be no Severn in the equation. It's straight up Owen versus Shamrock. And they have, where were they for this match?
They were actually in a different part of the facility in Madison Square Garden. They actually had this Lion's Den match underneath the arena in the theater over there, which is interesting. This is the same theater that would host the, this is kind of my reality TV brain coming out right now, but this is the same facility that would host the Survivor All-Stars reunion 6 years later. It's a really interesting location for a wrestling match, because the crowd is literally seated like they're at a proscenium theater. It's dead on. The Titantron is, just two projector screens on either side of the Lion's Den. And to my recollection, the only way to win this match was by submission. And it's a really interesting presentation here. It's almost like Vince McMahon. The UFC was a brand new thing around this time, first of all. And I feel like Vince was trying everything he could to answer to every possible popular pop culture thing. And this was his answer to the UFC.
It was an octagon without it being an octagon. It was a circle, and it was surrounded by a cage, no ropes, anything like that. And Owen Hart enters the match, and I love when wrestlers like survey their environment. He's looking up and down the cage. He's shaking the cage, and he doesn't realize what he's getting himself into. He's literally being thrown into the Lion's Den with this lion, Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock is over as fuck. He gets a huge pop coming into this match.
He does.
And it's a very interesting concept to see. Like, okay, there's no more bullshit. Owen can't use Dan Severn in this match. He is literally locked in a cage with Ken Shamrock. How is he going to get his way out of this?
Yeah, Shamrock is literally like jumping off the sides of the cage and doing clotheslines to Owen Hart, which is really, really neat. Like, that's what I really loved about this match, is how they use the environment around them. And this was freaking physical as well. Owen was bleeding from the mouth pretty early on. Everybody was trying to go for submissions here, both guys rather. Owen locks in the sharpshooter, and Shamrock has such a brilliant counter out of it. He crawls towards the cage, but since there's no rope breaks, he starts climbing the cage while he's in the sharpshooter, and that's how he breaks that hold. Shamrock's a badass. Like,
he really
come on, a legitimate badass.
Is appreciated. It's kind of hard. I have to go back and watch how dominant he was, because he was recently booked in Impact 2 years ago, and he's old as fuck, but they're still booking him as this fucking monster that nobody can touch. And I'm just like, this looks fucking stupid. Rich Swann is getting his ass kicked by a senior citizen. So I need to go back to 98 and 97 to remind myself how much of a badass Ken Shamrock actually was.
Yeah. Ken Shamrock, a man who was never the WWF champion, but with how over he was, he very well could have been in an alternate universe, in my humble opinion. Shamrock and Owen are just, they're tearing it up in there. This is a very technically sound wrestling match in an octagon-style location. And keeping in mind, this iron circle is too small for a referee to get in there with them, so they actually have a little balcony on top of the Lion's Den where the referee can oversee the action going on, which is a really cool visual. He's only there.
Again, I mentioned earlier that this is one of only 2 times this match has happened. The other time was recently a couple years ago, or a year ago, was it? Tommaso Ciampa and Tim Thatcher actually wrestled in a Lion's Den match as well. It was not really the same, but it was kind of still the same concept they were going for, and it had very much influence from this match for sure.
Were those the only 2 times? I feel like they pulled out the Lion's Den more than once in the Attitude Era.
Did they? I remember Thatcher and Ciampa, and I remember this one.
Okay, yeah, this is something we'll have to look up, and feel free to correct us down in the chat too. But as far as Lion's Den matches go, this is this is as good as it's gonna get. You have Ken Shamrock, who is a legitimate badass. You have Owen Hart, one of the greatest technical wrestlers to ever live, in my opinion. It's a match made in heaven.
You put Owen in an environment that he's not used to, and he made it work. This is easily a gimmick that could have fell flat on its ass, but you had the 2 right people in here, and they made it work.
Shows you how good Owen Hart was, too. How he was able to adapt to this environment and just still come off like a legitimate tough guy. And another thing, I really love this attire for Owen Hart. Kind of a different, digression here. That danger tape on Owen for his Nation run, it's so clean. It's such cool gear for him.
I also like that they didn't just force Owen to just dress like an MMA fighter. He did have his hands taped up. He looked like a little more of a Street Fighter style, but he was still wearing his wrestling gear, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, the crowd was also chanting Nugget at him as loud as they could, which honestly, everybody was calling Owen Hart a nugget around that time.
And then Owen Hart just looks at the crowd and says, Wow.
Oh wow, I'm Owen
Wow.
Hart. No,
Wow.
someone, jeez, yeah, no, he looks so much like freaking Johnny Lawrence in that Lions Den too. Chris Jericho was right. Like Greg Morgan was right. He looks like freaking like William Zabka in that Lions Den. It's so crazy.
Yeah. And after all the chaos of this match, Shamrock is able to lock in his ankle lock, and he makes Owen tap out in the cage. Dan Severn is disappointed. He's pissed off at this point. But Shamrock, it's the perfect payoff to a storyline like this of you just want to see the dastardly little heel get what's coming to him. And Owen got what was coming to him in this match. 3.5 stars. This was very fun.
Fuck it. I'll give it 3 3/4. I loved this match. I thought it was so fun. Shamrock gets a huge pop upon winning, and the visual of him climbing up to the top of the Lion's Den to like just feed off of the energy of the crowd, and it zooms out with all the people and him standing on top triumphant. It's so great. It's such a great visual. Love this match. It's a hidden gem, in my personal opinion.
It really is, yeah.
But up next, I know the graphic is going to say Mankind and Kane are defending against the New Age Outlaws in a no-holds-barred Falls Count Anywhere match for the WWF World Tag Team Championships. But, as we alluded to already, Kane has not shown up. The Undertaker has said that his brother was not in the facility that night. So Mankind, 2 months after being thrown off Hell in a Cell. Crazy to think about it like that, in hindsight. This is only 2 months after Mankind pretty much changed his entire career and how people look at him. He's going in here all by himself to defend the tag belts against the New Age Outlaws, who are over baby faces. They are, oh my god, this crowd loves the Outlaws.
Which is very weird when you put it into retrospect, because the way they're being booked and the way they're acting in the ring does not scream baby faces.
No.
But they are so popular with the crowd. It's like they have to be baby faces by default. Like, look at what they've done over the past few months. They put Mick Foley in a dumpster and shoved him off the stage.
And that plays into the Outlaws actually bringing a dumpster out to ringside.
Yeah, like they're in a 2-on-1 situation with Mankind, and they have no problem with beating the shit out of Mankind by himself. And it's weird because by default, Mankind is the heel and the Outlaws are their baby faces, which in reality it should be the other way around.
It should be. It should be.
Mankind at Survivor Series, but it's just so weird to look at.
Mankind, the cowardly heel, is in there throwing every possible weapon he can at these blokes. The Outlaws go in there. They're double-teaming Mankind. Mankind is not staying down. He's kicking out of everything the Outlaws are throwing at him. Billy Gunn was thrown through a table, by the way. And the table looked like the most like ratchet-ass table you could ever get for a WWE show.
That's the one Billy Gunn going through that table. What do you expect? He's gonna
You son of a bitch. It did not look that safe at all. Like, the one Billy Gunn is sent through that table, and I could have sworn I was going to start seeing him gash out blood, Bob Holly style, out of his back. Like, shit.
Yeah, there were some nasty spots in this match.
Like, Road Dogg being hit with a salad bowl. You have never seen a salad bowl ever in a wrestling match after this. They probably used a bunch of this in, like, hardcore championship matches, like, where they go Falls Count Anywhere. Al Snow pins Bob Holly on the Mississippi River a few like pay-per-views after this, but this was about as hardcore as it gets. The hardcore title had not been introduced and awarded to Mankind around this time. It would be another few months before that happened, but... And
again, I know it's a different situation and everything, but also this feels like WrestleMania sloppy seconds again. It's Mankind and the New Age Outlaws involved in a tag team title match, in a gimmick match. Just Foley's partner is different, or in this case, absent. At the time, again, it's a weird trope that I hope next year WWE kind of gets out of. It kind of becomes too predictable if you're going to do a big WrestleMania match and then you're just going to do a rematch or a slightly different variation of said match 6 months later at SummerSlam. It's like, I know they're both your two biggest shows of the year, but if a champion is always going to win their title at WrestleMania and lose it at SummerSlam, then you see the writing on the wall. It's just something that's bugged me these past few years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, SummerSlam just seems like a logical place for big events to happen. In this case, a big event would be the New Age Outlaws pinning Mankind in the middle of the ring to become the new WWF Tag Team Champions of the World. And then they put Mankind in the dumpster, put him in the trash where he belongs. The Outlaws leave without the dumpster because we see a lid popping open, and Kane was in the fucking dumpster the whole time. what the fuck was Kane doing in there?
Nice, Kane. It would have been nice if you showed up 10 minutes ago.
Well, I mean, he just wrestled Mankind in Hell in a Cell on the Go Home Raw, so these guys do not like each other. Like, it makes sense that Kane would not show up for his partner, and he has a sledgehammer with him, a sledgehammer that Mankind was selling all throughout the show so far, and he drives it as hard as he can into the bottom of the dumpster, and it's sold like Mankind being hit with that sledgehammer. JR is just furious at Kane for doing this. Like, he's like, damn you, Kane, damn you. Like, it's classic JR. But this was a fun little hardcore style match, I would say. It's hard for me to really rate this, because on the one hand, you gotta really respect Mankind and his resilience in character, but then again, Mankind's the heel. He's the heel in this situation. So the psychology's a little ass backwards. The Outlaws...
It's so weird just to think about that. Again, like in retrospective, the Outlaws are the faces. And I get it. They're super over with the crowd. D-Generation X is kind of going through their babyface turn.
They are.
The shit that the Outlaws are doing on TV does not scream babyface. Babyfaces do not put innocent people in dumpsters and shove them off the stage.
Well, they're outlaws, so what do you expect? One of them is an ass boy and one of them is a road dog, so what do you expect? They're outlaws.
It's just so weird at this point. But Outlaws are once again the 100th time tag team champions.
They're not the 100th time tag team champions, you idiot. That would be the Dudley Boys.
They're popular as fuck at this point. That in a logical wrestling sense, you would have had these guys hold the tag team titles for like 3 years, but no, it's the Attitude Era, and we got to take the titles off of them 2 weeks just to put them back 3 weeks later, and all that bullshit.
You got to give them to random tag teams like Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett, D'Lo Brown and Test. It's
gotta do it. Gotta get that pop.
Got to do it. But fun little hardcore match, with a nice little angle at the end there. But this next match was anything but garbage. Mankind was thrown in the garbage, but oh man.
We have the two factions that are feuding at this time. Their leaders going head to head. It's Triple H challenging The Rock for the Intercontinental Championship in a ladder match.
Yes.
This match is iconic for a lot of reasons. This was the coming out party for both Rock and Triple H, in my opinion. They are both, they're feuding with each other. It's the Nation versus DX. DX doing some very questionable things in this feud, like don't ask Triple H who trapped the Nation's he will deny it. Triple H comes out to a live version of the DX band playing his theme, and I fucking hate this entrance. It gives me a seizure because they are just showing random clips of Triple H and X-Pac and China in the ring doing stuff, but then they'll flash back to Triple H coming out to the ring, and I can't tell what's real and I can't tell what's not.
That's how DX was all the time. Like if you look at Shawn Michaels at any point around this era before he was forced to prematurely retire, like his entrances were seizures. Royal Rumble 1998, I couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't when Shawn was coming out there. So same thing with Hunter. I will say that I peeped Jim Johnston on guitar at this point in time. It was a really cool little Easter egg there.
It was a really cool entrance. Just I don't like that editing. It made me fucking nauseous.
Rest in peace to the DX band singer, by the way. Very, very sad.
Yeah.
The Rock comes out. So Triple H is accompanied to the ring by the ninth wonder of the world, China, might I add. Triple H wearing some clean purple tights with a black logo on there. Vintage DX Triple H there. The Rock comes out with his heater, Mark Henry, to one of my personal favorite, most underrated Rock theme songs, where he's The Rock slaying the SmackDown. It was before that.
The Rock says,
know your damn role.
There's know your damn role.
If I'm a villain on stage, if I have to do an evil laugh, I will go to that theme song and try and practice that laugh that The Rock does. Ha! The Rock's laying the SmackDown. Yeah, but
The Rock
it's great.
Know your damn role.
Yeah. You want to talk about DX doing controversial things like impersonating the Nation? The Rock and his goons were doing some pretty controversial stuff as well. There was a point where they kidnapped China And they put Chyna like on her knees in the ring, and The Rock, oh my God, The Rock was saying some pretty risque things, and he had an interview with Michael Cole beforehand, which he was saying some pretty raunchy shit there. But I'll never forget, and this was on his first solo VHS documentary that I watched a lot, because The Rock was my favorite. The Rock Know Your Role. Part of the Attitude Collection, by the way. He had Chyna in the ring in a segment, and D'Lo and Mark Henry hold Chyna down on her knees, and The Rock is like, well, you look pretty damn good on your knees, Chyna. It almost looks like a natural position. And I'm like, fuck, dude. Fuck. Like, come on, man.
With the exception of 03, this is peak Rock being a heel without the comedy. This was one of the most underrated Rock runs. And again, this was the coming out party for Triple H and The Rock, because they were mostly known as faction guys to this point. You know, chronicling The Rock real quick from 96, he started off as Rocky Maivia. He was the blue chipper babyface that was not getting over. But once he got into the Nation of Domination, that's when he was able to like start being himself and start showing a little more character. Monster on a podcast I was listening to, he said you cannot be a good babyface until you become a good heel. And that was what The Rock needed to do.
On a side note, it's still baffling to me looking at this in hindsight, like knowing how long Roman Reigns was WWE's babyface before the Tribal Chief came along. Like, it took them like 6 years to figure out like what Roman Reigns' character should be, but they did it already. They did this already. The Rock like was a blue chipper babyface coming in, and not even 2 years later, he's over as fuck. He's one of the top heels in the biz.
It's like as a wrestler, you need to understand what makes the fans tick before you can understand what they love.
Mm-hmm.
And going out there and forcing them to like you, I feel like getting out there and getting them to hate you is a lot easier than trying to get them to like you. I think they need to see the bad side of you before they can see the good side of you, which
absolutely
The Rock was doing an excellent job at this point. Triple H had already kind of gone through his heel run. And again, he's babyface by default because DX is just so over.
Oh, yeah. Triple H was feeding off this crowd energy so much. And his knee, heavily braced, he's still selling a belt shot attack from The Rock on Sunday Night Heat. The Rock comes out with the title belt, and you actually do see the ref hang the belt above the two guys before presenting it to the crowd, saying this is what's on the line here. And that's a really unique little visual. I have seen this match so many times. Now, early ladder matches, Tomas, I mean, they can be hit or miss, but there's two ladder matches that I feel like really set the bar. Michaels and Razor Ramon. Actually, there's three. Both of the Shawn Razor matches for the high spots, and this match for the physicality, because this match was fucking violent, man. Like, oh my goodness. You talk about
Michaels and Ramon in this match, and I feel like all three of those matches really set the standard of what a good ladder match is. You know, nowadays, a ladder match can be anything. It's really evolved. But if you want to talk about the foundation of ladder matches, it's these three matches right here.
This
would evolve into what you would see with the Hardys and the Dudleys and Christian, all the way into what we saw with Eddie Guerrero and RVD, all the way until we saw what they could do in the Money in the Bank ladder match and, you know, subsequent ladder matches before and after that. This really just set the foundation for those matches. And one thing I really do like about this match is the psychology. I feel like you don't get that good psychology in ladder matches, but these guys really fucking told a story with this match.
They did.
Right from the get-go.
They did, and they didn't need a whole bunch of gizmos and ladder setups to do it. The key is simplicity sometimes, and I feel like these two got the simplicity of a ladder match down to a T. The Rock was super, super despicable in this match, but the crowd was still cheering him on. So much like Vince forced, like this crowd forced Vince's hand, and they turned the Rock babyface shortly after this. But this was probably some of the most despicable Rock actions you'll ever see, because he had injured Triple H's knee on Sunday Night Heat, and he was really playing that up. He sandwiches Triple H's knee in a ladder, hammers a steel chair on that ladder, and oh my god, that sickening sound. And Triple H,
like you said, we've seen The Rock do some fucked up shit in his career. He's beaten the fuck out of Mick Foley in an empty arena while making puns. He damn near killed Mick Foley at the Royal Rumble in that iconic I Quit match. And I feel like this is where The Rock's just dastardly deeds started. you know, The Rock really established himself a lot with this heel run.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This was his big coming out party. I totally agree with you, and he's my favorite of all time. So I know this match very, very well. And Triple H too. I mean, this match I don't think is nearly as good as it is. Like, The Rock was out of this world in this thing. Triple H's selling really, really helps things.
I feel, there was a point where Triple H went for the pedigree on the outside with the ladder, and The Rock reverses it, and Triple H's back just slams against that ladder. And you can hear that shit.
It was nasty. Absolutely nasty. There were a lot of nasty little ladder spots in here. Hunter hits The Rock, like, you know, drives the ladder down into his gut with a railroad spike. It's just, like, JR's, like, analysis in here is just so spot on, too. Triple H hits a baseball slide with the ladder right into The Rock's face. And JR's like, only in the WWF will you see a baseball slide off a ladder into a man's face. And The Rock was, and like, I'll remember that call as long as I live. And The Rock was bleeding, gushing blood after that. The Rock takes a bump off a ladder, and I'll tell you what, this is a match that's featured on that VHS tape that I was telling you about earlier. And that visual upside down of The Rock just out cold with blood coming down his face. That's an image I'll never forget. Never gonna forget.
Yeah. It's an iconic shot for sure. This match really just established a lot.
Absolutely loved it. But you want to know, as much as I love this, want to know my nitpicks? I feel like there was too much interference. I really do.
This is the Attitude Era we're talking about. We're at that glorious time at the late 90s with both promotions, mind you. Both WWE and WCW were guilty of this. It's kind of like they had the same head booker for a time there. One that loves run-ins, one that loves...
Listen, bro, here's the thing. Here's the fucking swerve. So, the person who ended up costing The Rock the match, I was going to make her the WWF champion, bro.
But she should have.
She should have
at one point.
Yeah, I agree. Mark Henry throws powder into Triple H's eyes. And Triple H, you know, as if he's a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest that's going to win later, spoiler alert, and now he's blinded. So, you would think that, like, okay, Triple H, I mean, he can be a superhero here, can't he? The Rock hits him with a rock bottom, of course, while he's climbing the ladder. There's a people's elbow in here, and I hate the people's elbow, but oh my god, he hits a scoop slam on Triple H, and just the grogginess of The Rock pulling the elbow pad off is just... it's a great added little layer there.
You know,
so
I really
good.
do appreciate the people's elbow and the 5-knuckle shuffle before it came like, oh, it's that thing they have to do in the match, because I feel like it was just pulled off so naturally, you know, before it became a stick move.
So do you think that this may be the most natural people's elbow of all time? Because he slammed Triple H on that ladder, and he doesn't perform the people's elbow like it's a routine here. He performs it like he's just been in a massive fight. Because he's staggered. He's staggered pulling that elbow pad off.
When you do the people's elbow in every single match you do, whether it be on TV and road shows, you know, that's got to take its toll on The Rock's elbow. So he's got to play it a little safe, but he wasn't doing that yet. So he was able to be a little more vicious. You know, I'm sure John Cena's fist hurts from slamming it on the mat that many years. That's why he had to turn so watered down.
Oh man, so watered down, and we're talking about a Triple H match here, where all he did was spit water beforehand. But anyway, Triple H hits a pedigree to a massive ovation. Like, I have never seen a pedigree get a louder pop than this. It's so crazy. Like, because WrestleMania 18, one of the first podcasts we ever did, Triple H won the undisputed title in the main event. And that was a pretty loud pop in and of itself, but the crowd was so tired at that point. They had not, like, this was the show stealer. This crowd was on the edge of their seats. Every little move here. That's part of why I love this match. Everybody was into it. But yeah, to my point, Chyna does run interference, hits The Rock right in the penis, hits him with a low blow. The Rock falls.
Nice revenge for her part.
Oh yeah, it's nice revenge. It's nice revenge, but like, for a match that was this good, I really don't think it needed the interference. I think it honestly kind of taints Triple H's victory in a way. Because shortly afterwards...
Also, you go back to the psychology of Degeneration Edge or baby faces by default, you know, they're still going to cheat to win. They're still going to play dirty.
Yeah, after Mark Henry powdered Triple H in the eyes.
If anything, they were just evening the odds.
It honestly makes Triple H more of a badass in this way because he was climbing the ladder on one leg. He couldn't see where the belt is. JR was overhyping this to the nth degree by saying, he's touching it. He's touching it. He knows where it is. He's found it. Like, it's, yeah, I love it. I love it. I mean, interference aside, Triple H grabs the belt and The Rock is selling it so well down there.
You want to talk about pops.
Oh, this ovation when Triple H won. My word. My word, they were so happy.
At this point, Triple H had made it. And so had The Rock. Like I said, this is their coming out party. 4.5 stars. This match was excellent. It's iconic.
I'm matching it.
It's iconic for a lot of reasons. And again, we always talk about that. I swear we need to make this a segment. If you're going to watch this show for one match, and this is that match. If you're going to watch this show, watch it for this match.
Easily. I mean, honestly, this could be my match of the year for 1998. Like, this is so good. Absolutely great. I mean, it's one of the best matches in both guys' careers.
Yeah.
I've always felt like these two guys were each other's best opponents. I know Stone Cold Steve Austin's in the picture, but like these two always brought out the best in each other. So
we get a WWF home video exclusive with
that was interesting, wasn't it?
Backstage. I want to point out that throughout The Rock walking to his dressing room, you can hear, where's Undertaker? We need Undertaker.
We need Taker in his place. Taker.
Yeah. Which I thought was really cool that you got to see like a little backstage moment of them looking for the Undertaker. Rock gets mad at the cameraman. He tells him to go away. He goes into his dressing room. Oh no, he
gets mad at the doctor. Gets mad at the doctor.
Thank you. Yeah.
Gets
mad at the doctor. Says The Rock doesn't need no damn help. Leave him alone. He goes into the dressing room. The doctor's not okay, but the cameraman is. So the cameraman follows him into the dressing room, and The Rock basically just trying to ruin Triple H's championship win by saying, you may have beaten The Rock tonight, but you will never be as great as The Rock. You will never be the people's champion. It is a nice little post-match interview.
It was really, really great. Blood dripping down his face, and he ends it with, what can I say? Payback's a bitch. And these two would trade wins continuously throughout the rest of their careers together. But great match. If I were to, I agree. If I were to pick one match from this show that you should go back and watch, it's this one. Bar none. But our main event, the show it's built around. Tomas called it the Highway to Hell. Stone Cold Steve Austin defending the World Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Championship against The Undertaker. The Undertaker comes out, the gates of hell burst open, and this is the best Undertaker theme song ever. It really is. Like, I cannot think of a better... I mean, his theme song that he comes out to, just the gonging, that's iconic, but come on, nothing beats this Dark Side pre-Ministry Undertaker here.
Ministry Undertaker's gimmick and theme were so underrated, and I know it had its shelf life, and it did very well, but this was, you know, in a lot of ways, Undertaker's coming out party as well. I know he'd been on top for a while, but this was one of the bigger matches in his career, going one-on-one with Stone Cold Steve Austin. One issue I do have with this match off the bat, this crowd is obviously gassed from the ladder match. And it really shows in this match. They still give Stone Cold Steve Austin a gigantic pop because he's the most over man in the industry by this time. He does come out, and I completely forgot that they did the glass shatter like a la WrestleMania 13 for his entrance here, which I thought was a cool little throwback. He does come out with the Smoking Skull belt variant, which is one of my favorite championship belt designs, if I say so myself. It's just so cool. But yeah, these two get in the ring. It takes a while for this crowd to get into it. And the gimmick, Tomas, the big gimmick behind this match involves Undertaker's little baby brother, Kane. Because these two most recently formed an unholy alliance, and Undertaker promises Stone Cold that this match is going to be one-on-one. But when Kane comes out, what happens? Undertaker sends him back. Yeah. He points at Kane and says, I got it. And Kane kind of stands there for a minute. He's a little confused, but he reluctantly makes his way to the back, but not before looking one more time, like, are you sure? And he's like, okay. And he leaves, and that's it. It shouldn't be that confusing. It makes all the sense in the world, because if Kane attacks Stone Cold, Undertaker doesn't win the title. Undertaker gets disqualified. So it's like... ask backward psychology if you ask for Kane's help. And so Taker... Yeah, spoiler alert. And at all the matches that you would expect to be some sort of interference or swerve, no, there is
This
not.
was a
This is
straight up one-on-one world heavyweight title match, and oh my god, this was actually a great main event. I don't remember this match being as good as it was. Taker, I love...
There was a big fight feel.
Yeah.
Right after Taker sends Kane to the back, he looks at Austin and says, well, come on, let's do this. And I feel like that's where Austin and Taker very much, the respect factor was definitely up there. Because, you know, in any other sense, Undertaker definitely should have used Kane in this match, but he didn't. And he, you know, for being the heel in this match, Taker, you know, he really showed some respect.
He was more of a tweener in this role, but in my eyes, this was easily, after Shawn Michaels had to prematurely retire, this was the biggest match they could possibly promote for their second biggest show of the year in Austin versus Taker. So one of them had to be the bad guy. Obviously, it wasn't going to be Austin, but Taker was kind of teetering. He still wanted to be the honorable one. And I just love when Taker matches start around this time and he's just slugging the poor fool in the corner. The referee starts a 5 count, and then Taker just looks around like this dramatic chipmunk, and the referee just bails completely out of the ring.
Shit.
Earl
That
Hebner,
is an Undertaker trope.
Earl Hebner could have like ran away all the way to New Jersey with that speed. Like, my fucking word. Taker
It's one
scared
of my favorite underappreciated Undertaker tropes right there. Just how he would intimidate the referee.
So great.
You know, to put some praise on Stone Cold Steve Austin, everybody has been saying like, oh, after Austin's neck injury, he was never the same. And even though he changed it up, he still had Austin's wrestling psychology is matched by none. He is wrestling such a different style here, but he still understands how to construct a perfectly good match, even though he can't do all of the wrestling that he used to do, you know, a year prior.
And Austin was taking some sick bumps himself. There was a back body drop on the concrete, because of course this is the Attitude Era, so you have to have some crowd brawling, which has a much different dynamic in Madison Square Garden. I will tell you that much. Because they're brawling like, you know, this corner of the hard camera. Now this corner of the hard camera. Like, the entrance isn't off this way. If you're looking at, if I'm the ring, the entrance isn't off this way. Straight behind me would be the entrance in that case. Like, it's a much different crowd fighting dynamic there. But Austin takes a back body drop. They eventually fight back to ringside. And then you get the most iconic spot of this match, because it's played so much in Taker video packages nowadays. He takes off the Spanish announce table cover, and he puts Austin on it, hits a gigantic fucking leg drop from the top rope, puts Austin right through that table. My word. My word, that's so clean.
Yeah, just the things that Taker was doing in his heyday was just absolutely amazing, and this just highlighted that.
Yeah, and also, did you notice that he took out one monitor? The second one, he was this close to just landing ass first on it, and that would not have been comfortable. Would not have been very comfortable at all.
Take both monitors out.
Yeah. Yeah, that was almost a disaster.
Even Logan Paul knew to take out both monitors.
Fucking Logan Paul. I didn't think his name was going to be mentioned, but yeah, Taker hits a leg drop, and there's some nice Taker hits a choke slam. Taker does hit a couple of choke slams here and there. There is a nice callback to last year's SummerSlam where Stone Cold broke his neck in the match with Owen Hart. Taker goes for the same move that injured Austin, a tombstone pile driver, which Austin counters. Probably smart on his part. Counters the tombstone, hits Taker with one Stone Cold Stunner and pins him clean in the middle. And Austin retains. You usually, on a big pay-per-view like this, on an Attitude Era pay-per-view, would see some sort of schmaz. Like Kane would probably run in, or Mankind would run in, stuff like that.
Or Mr. McMahon, or The Rock, or somebody. Somebody would have ran in and tried to cost Austin the match. There would have been a big old schmaz. No ref bumps, no interference, no low blows, no weapon shots, no big swerves. This was a straight up one-on-one match for the WWF Championship.
Such a, very, very clean wrestle main event. After the bell, after Taker's pinned clean in the middle, he sits up, he grabs the Smoking Skull belt. You think he's going to deck Austin with it? He presents him the title. It's a show of respect for right now. But little did Austin know that this would be a hot feud for him going into the winter time. But this was I don't know, man. This was a really solid main event. I'm going to give it 4. I'm going to give it a 4.
4 stars is good. Not as good as the ladder match, but this was still very worthy of being the main event and very worthy of all the hype and very worthy of being on that iconic poster.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This really did feel like the two biggest stars in the promotion going head-to-head. It really did feel like a Godzilla versus King Kong style matchup, even though size-wise, Taker certainly had the advantage, but it certainly had that marquee match feel to it, and the crowd certainly treated it as such. And they were eating it up once the match picked up, but once they got some breathing room, and once the backdrop happened, I would say, once the crowd fighting was going on, it was on, man.
It was. The only downside is that the aftermath of this pay-per-view gets really fucking wonky. Austin, Undertaker, and Kane would end up having a triple threat match at Breakdown where Taker and Kane were not allowed to pin each other. A lot of bullshit happened in that match, and that led to Austin ultimately losing the WWF Championship, a call that I will never agree with. It did lead into a lot of schmoz that ended up being the Deadly Games tournament, but...
So convoluted, huh?
So convoluted. You know, you talk about the ratings pop, you talk about Vince Russo's his booking decision. This was one of them. I really felt that there was no reason for Austin to drop the title in such a weird way.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And he had been the WWF champion twice in 1998. Just in the span of like 2 months, he was a two-time champ. Crazy. But SummerSlam 98, an iconic pay-per-view for so many reasons. I'm going to give it a solid 8.5. Mainly because there's a couple of matches in here that I feel like could have been done like on Heat or something like that. But, I mean, for the most part, it's well wrestled. You have a really, really stellar main event. You have a star-making ladder match in Triple H and The Rock. And you have some solid undercard in here. The Lions Den match is a hidden gem. It's a toss-up for me between this and Survivor Series for best pay-per-view of that calendar year at least.
It's an excellent pay-per-view for sure. It has everything that you could want in an Attitude Era pay-per-view. Very good main event, a fantastic ladder match, and then you have all your gimmicks in between that made the Attitude Era what it was. I'll give this an 8. You know,
an 8?
The undercard stuff wasn't as offensive as it could be. You know, even though you have a fucking -2 in this match on this show, I feel like everything else made up for it. You had some solid wrestling, good storytelling, you got your gimmicks, you got everything.
Yeah, you know, and it's a fun time. It's a very nostalgic show for a lot of people. A lot of people put this in their top 10 SummerSlams. I certainly think it's up there for me just in terms of like the nostalgia factor and like rewatching those VHS tapes of this show and like the highlights there. It's a really fun pay-per-view. So if you're still in the SummerSlam feel, definitely check this one out. We both highly give it a stamp of approval, I would say. I don't know if I could speak for Tomas on that, but yeah, if there was one match you'd have to watch on the show, it would probably be the Oddities versus Kaientai.
Yeah, 100%.
No. Don't do that. Don't put yourself in a prison. But in any case, guys, smash that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. It's a very, very fun time doing this for you guys and talking all things pro wrestling. We're looking to talk about AEW Quake by the Lake, which is Dynamite and Rampage, because we haven't done an AEW show in a while, have we?
No. And I think this will be a nice little appetizer before All Out at the beginning of next month. Like I said, AEW and WWE are both in kind of transitioning periods right now. They're both building to some very big shows on the same weekend. So hang in there tight because we got a big WWE pay-per-view on Saturday and a big AEW pay-per-view on Sunday.
We are getting to eat, especially with Triple H in charge of creative now. It's a good time to be a fan. It's a good time to be a fan. Also, keep your eyes peeled out for our continued Ruthless Aggression retrospective. We're looking at another iconic Madison Square Garden pay-per-view later this month in WrestleMania 20. Should be a very fun time. But again, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up. It would be much, much appreciated. And look out for other reviews over here. I'm going to be doing some more movie releases and all that good stuff. But yeah, it's going to be a fun time. Tomas, thank you so much again for coming on. As always, it's always a fun time. And look out for other retro polls, and we're looking for your input as well. But stay tuned, folks.
Saudi season is coming up, so we're going to be needing some shows to watch.
Oh yeah, we're going to be needing some shows to watch to compensate for that blood money. But
yeah.
In any case, folks, commence that back talk. See you guys next time.